الله الكبير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. الله الكبير. Once again, we are grateful to God for giving us this opportunity, and should realize that this is not by accident. This is by divine design and providence, that God has given us another chance to be here today and make a better servant of God, hopefully, and follow His instructions and guidance, and all of those are necessary for us to survive in this universe that we're in, and a lot of unknowns are in this universe, and so God is enlightening us about the mechanisms at work in this universe, and He is opened up our eyes to who He is and what He is planning for us, and so we should be grateful for all of those things. And that's not, again, this is not by accident. This is again by divine design, that God has chosen us to have this honor and this privilege today that the rest of the people don't have, and so we are really blessed with this huge favor that God has bestowed upon us, and so we thank Him for that, and we are indebted to Him, and so we are also realizing that gratefulness and appreciativeness is a godlike quality. And He's always appreciative and grateful to us for what we are doing in serving Him, and so we have to actually repay in kind and make sure that we are grateful to the source of all of these blessings that we have. Today, what I wanted to discuss with you is that I wanted to go to this I look for the word ajal. Ajal in the Quran means it's a predetermined time or a predetermined interim. And God is telling us that every one of us has a predetermined lifespan, basically. And that lifespan is not going to change. Now the question is that this lifestyle is not only unique to us, it's unique to the entire universe that God has created. Okay? So every particle, the elementary particle that we cannot see, okay, and we see some of the effects of it, and so we can sort of estimate of their properties and their behaviors, and so their existence, for that matter. And so from those tiny particles to the entire universe, to the galaxies, the stars, okay, every one of them has an interim, has a specific time. Okay, so here I'm just going to put Ajal here in the box, okay, and so then you can, and in order to do that, it's if you know Arabic, actually it's let me see here if I can bring it to you and sort of put my professor hat on and try to do some instructions here. And so all you have to do is just go to Google Translate, okay? And here you go Google Translate. Google Translate has this. It says English, Spanish, French. Okay, so what you do is you come in here and it says Arabic. Okay, so you put Arabic there, and then you put the word Ajal. Okay, let's see. It has a keyboard here in Arabic, and Ajal is Alif and Jim and Dal, and so it's right here. No, I'm sorry, not Dal, Lam. Ajal. Oops, I didn't do it. Okay, here we go. Ajal. Okay, and it says okay here, and rather, yes, verb means postpone, stall, put off, continue, delay, deter. Okay, so that's what it means. But anyway, so then you basically cut and paste this guy, and you copy it, and then close this one, and then you go back to this box, and I've already done that. In that blue, I put Ajal in there. But anyway, you can paste it here. And then you hit this arrow down, and there it is. Okay, so this is one Ajal here. Okay, so and so we go there, and Ajalahunna, that's another one. Okay, Ajalahunna, this is about women. Okay, and Ajalahu, okay. Ila ajalin musamma, known ajal, okay. So ila ajalihi, okay. So it goes on like this, and so you can look for all of these words, the frequency of these words, and it tells you how many is there up there, okay. How many of that are in the entire Quran. So anyway, it says ثم قضى أجلا وأجل مسمى, okay. So it says that. Determined as a specific lifespan and a lifespan only known to him. Okay, so so we go on like this, and then these are the people on the day of judgment who actually confess their sins, and it says when our predetermined time was up, and so then God says, well, your abode is hell, okay, and then you're going to be there forever, except in accordance with God's will. Inna rabbuka hakimun alim. Okay, so God always puts that thing out there. Okay, there's exceptions there. Okay, so again, that goes back to the original statement of the Quran, which is the beginning of the Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay, the all gracious, the all merciful. Those two attributes of God, it seems to be taken over everything. And that's good news for us. Our opening statement started like that, with all of the sins that they've committed. Okay, so here we go on, and so if you bear with me, and okay, when Ajal, it says that you cannot delay it or postpone it. I mean, you cannot delay it or bring it closer to you. It can be moved in time. In other words, okay. And so we go about this and there it is. Okay. So this one, I'm gonna close this so it will not move from here. So this is 11:104. In this one, it says that God says, and we will not delay it except to fulfill a numerically predetermined time. Okay. Now this interim is numerically predetermined by God. And again, we have seen that over and over and over again. Those particles that I talked to you about, okay, in 1987A, there was a supernova that actually happened. It blew up, a star blew up, about 18 solar masses. In my opinion, it's larger than that, but let it be for the time being. That's another story, okay. At that time, the supernova blew up, and to our time right now, it took 160,000 years to get here. That means that bang made the cover of Time magazine, called Bang. And that bang happened 160,000 years ago. And so the particles called neutrinos, they got here in 1987. Okay. And so in 1987, there are about 20 of these particles. They interacted in some detectors. These detectors were not designed to detect this. That was not the proposal objective. The objective proposal for those detectors had nothing to do with the supernovas. Can you imagine that? This shows the weakness of man. Because had they written it like that, it probably would not be accepted. So it was, oh, you're out of your mind. But what happened was they triggered the detector. And these objects, these tiny neutrinos, they interacted in there and they give off light. And so those lights were detected 4 hours before the light, the actual light from the supernova got here, because the neutrinos get out faster than the light. Not in speed. They get out of the supernova faster than the light photons. Okay? They come later, about 4 hours later. Okay? So, but at that time, every one of those events in these detectors, okay, these objects were tagged. That means they had a time and a X, Y, Z coordinate. So in other words, they had a number. So that was their ajal. Ajalun ma'adud. That means that except for the numerically ma'adud is the object of the adada, which means number. Okay? So numerically predetermined time, which ajal means. That has to be fulfilled. That's what God says. It cannot be moved forward or backwards in time. You can do that. Okay? So those particles, now, some of those neutrinos, they interacted inside the Earth. Some interacted inside the Moon. They changed their behavior. Okay? The neutrino went away and it produces light, which is an electron, which is a ionizing particle, and it actually, when it goes inside water, it actually gives us light. Okay? So all of those objects, they had a number. And God says this has to be fulfilled. Okay? So this is God's design. So we are the same way. We are the same situation. God says every community has an ajal, which is known. Every community has an interim. You've seen empires, they come and go because they have an interim. You cannot delay it or send it backwards or forward in time. You can't do that. Cannot be done. Okay? So every one of us has the same thing. Okay? The same numerically tagged position in space-time continuum. That's what I said. We keep saying that, well, this looks like a cyclic thing. It's not a cyclic thing. So don't complain that you're bored. You are not bored. You are not looking at things the right way. This year that we're celebrating the New Year is not the same as last year. The sun has moved. The sun with its planets has moved around the galaxy by 1 year at the speed of 225 kilometers per second. Okay? There are 3.15 times 10 to the 7, that means 31 million. Okay? 31 million seconds in a year. So those things that what you see in there, those things are not, we are not looking at them carefully. Okay? So you multiply 225 by 31 million, 31,500 million or something like that. Okay. But anyway, so that those two numbers, they tell you how many kilometers you actually moved. So this year is not like last year. And then, as I said, the galaxy moves too at almost a rate of 600 kilometers per second. So it's not the same. We cannot complain, oh, it's the same. A lot of people commit suicide because they get bored, because they're not looking at things the right way. It's a brand new thing that God has provided for us. And for that, we should be grateful to Him. So every day that you wake up, it's a new thing. It's a new situation in your life. So those objects that interacting inside the earth, we did not measure them because we didn't have the equipment to measure them. Only God knows that. Only God knows how many of those neutrinos interact inside the earth. And the majority of those neutrinos, okay, 10 to the 16 neutrinos were actually ejected from that supernova. 99% of the energy of that supernova went into production of neutrinos. That's amazing. Okay? And so the majority of those neutrinos are still wandering in the galaxy. 160,000 years later, they are still wandering down the galaxy. They haven't their interim is not up yet. But God said, I fulfill a numerically predetermined time. Once that happens, then that neutrino converts into an electron. Okay. And that's the amazing part. So these numbers that we talk about it every week, okay, these are a consequence of this knowledge that God has. Okay? And that's how He designed everything. That's what He says right here, except to fulfill a numerically predetermined time. Okay? That's what the word ajal is. Okay? So it's a beautiful universe. Let's put it this way. Okay? So now we talk about this Quran. Okay, so we read all of these things in there. And we see that everything in here is absolutely mathematically numbered. And the mathematics that we are talking about is beyond our understanding completely. But what He does actually, He gives us all of these so-called final results that are tangible to us, that we can actually see it, we can verify it, and we can go through this business without any headaches, because you don't have to learn all of those advanced mathematics that you take in graduate school in mathematics or physics. You don't have to go through that mathematics. If it was like that, you would not be able to verify this. Okay. This is the beauty of God's system. So as I said, we just saw this thing, these things that come from 47 million light years away. That means that the neutrinos that we saw in this ice cube experiment, they started 47 million years ago, and they just got here. And 80 of those guys we counted in the span of 10 years interacted inside this gigantic detector. It's a piece of ice, which is 1 gigaton of ice, instrumented so you can see light. So they interacted in there, 80 of them. But then can you imagine how many of them also interact inside the earth that we don't know about? How many of them actually interact inside the moon? We have no idea. But the number is huge. The number you're talking about is absolutely mind-boggling. But then again, I've talked about the 19th Mersenne prime. And I told you that the exponent of that thing is 4253. That means that you multiply 2 by itself 4,253 times. Okay? And then you subtract 1 from it. There's a number in there that says that has 1,281 digits. What I just told you is that when the supernova blew up, it produces 10 to the 60 neutrinos. Okay? That means 1 with 60 zeros. 1,281 digits means 1 with 1,280 zeros. Okay? Not 60, 1,281. What does it tell you? If he tells you that in chapter 72, okay? Chapter 72, verse 28, he says, and he assigned a number to all things, which tells you that his creation is absolutely infinite. It boggles our mind. So what he says, there is, since the numbers are infinite, there is no end to God's creation. Okay. We go through that and we read the Quran. The Quran says, and he creates what you do not know. This is God's system. Okay. So every one of us, according to this system that God has created, okay, we have a time. And that time will not be delayed except to fulfill a numerically predetermined time. It has to happen. Okay. So somebody, for example, lives to be 100 years old. That's a long lifespan. Okay. Why? Because that person has a number. That number that he has to be fulfilled. And then you have some people, they die at 6 months or something. A baby dies at 6 months. They get COVID or something and they die. Right? A lot of people die during this COVID thing. 6.5 million people, that was reported. I'm not talking about the ones that are not reported for political reasons in other cases. Okay? The statistics that come from the United Nations, 6.5 million people died. Okay? Which you really have to take that with a grain of salt, but anyway. But let's just assume that. So 6.5 million people, that was the time to go. Okay? There were people who lived, 90 years or something. And then there are people who went through this. There was one person who went through the Spanish flu and COVID and survived. And was very old, obviously, because Spanish flu is from 2018. And she was a baby back then. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, 1918. Okay? So, you can see these things that happens, but anyway, these things are, if you go through these things, but there is a numerically predetermined time for all of us. And as I said, I brought the examples of the neutrinos because I wanted you to know that even that tiny object has a number associated with it. I want to stress this. Okay? I want to absolutely stress this. So you know that you, as an individual, this earth as an entity, this sun as an entity, this universe as an entity, as that's what God says. Okay? When its time comes, it expires. Guess what God says? Okay. They all have an associated number with it. I'm going to stop here and we'll finish this unit. Allahu Kabir.